Okay, as a short introduction, so I'm Kamga from the African Center for Meteorological Applications for Development, and it's a center established by the Economic Commission for Africa in the 90s to address early warning systems for drought, floods, and other extreme events. So we work with national meteorological services and regional centers like IPAC in East Africa and Climate Service Center in Southern Africa. I would start by putting up the challenge that is there. Our meteorological services were created several decades ago to provide services to aviation. And now we are tackling an important challenge, which is climate change, and the services required to address climate change, starting from developing a climate change strategy to implementing it. Those services are not regular products of a national med service. So everyone here will come from an African center, from an African country where there is a national med service. There is a need actually to support this national service, to adjust their governance, have within the med services units that provide climate services, man these units and put them in contact with advanced centers. So it's a very important point, because all the presentation you have seen before, you need a strong national med service who can monitor, who can warn, who can make projections to effectively tackle these issues on the ground. So I wanted to show you at the continental level, ACMAD look at climate, global warming in particular, with an African eye. So you will see here what warming look like when you look at Africa. And I would emphasize that many presentations, many papers are showing us global warming, but we have not been able over the years to look at the warming seen on African land masses. You will see what happens. So this first plot here is a ranking of annual average temperature. And you can see that 2016, actually this year, is the warmest on record since 1950, when you take only the African land masses into consideration. And look at the magnitude of the warming. It has reached 1.5. So 1.5 is among the threshold that is being discussed to consider as a global threshold. But Africa already has 1.5 above average warming this year. And the second element that is very important is the rate of warming. When you look at Africa since 1950 till now, the warming rate is about 2 degrees C per century. But if you take only the last 25 years and compute the warming rate, it is above 3.5 degrees per century. So you have a substantial increase in the warming rate. So on an African strategy on climate change, to address climate change, these are the figures that we should take care of. It is not the global warming rate or the global warming level. We should use these evidences to build an African strategy to address climate change. So that was just the introduction to put you really in context. And then I will show you now some additional products that we have been developing and that are available under an EU-funded project called MESA, Monitoring of the Environment for Security in Africa. It is a project of the African Union, funded by European Union under the European African Strategy on Climate Change. So I will go quickly. So this project helps us to generate, for example, this precipitation situation from January 2016 to now over Africa compared to the average. And you can see that you have Northern Africa. So this is the dry situation that occurred during the last winter in North Africa. And this is the drought that we experienced in Southern Africa. In between, you have an area where there was excess rainfall. So this just shows that if we put into place a continental grain reserve, additional food, maize, for example, which is a very important product for Southern Africa, we could have excess maize production from one part of Africa supporting the other. So it's a map that we use to emphasize that at the African Union level, we should think of having continental grain reserve as a way to adapt to climate change. And you can see here that you need to analyze data, climate data, to build a strategy. If you build a strategy on global data, you will not easily address the particular problems that Africa is facing. So this is, and this precipitation product, it's used to monitor drought. So this is vegetation indices for monitoring drought, and this is soil moisture over Africa. And we combine that with water level in the lakes and rivers to have then a comprehensive drought monitoring system. One problem we have operationally in Africa also is that in many countries it's just precipitation. We should combine precipitation, vegetation, soil moisture, and water levels to have a comprehensive assessment of what is drought. So this is the Lake Kariba, and we use it to show how, if we consider advanced satellite technology. This is a recent satellite from Europe called Sentinel-3A, which is used to monitor how hydrological drought unfolded over Southern Africa last year. And one thing to know is that there is a threshold of water level. It is 475 meters. If the water level in the lake is below 475 meters, the system is no longer able to produce electricity. And you can see that with the satellite information, in around February, you had 476 meters. You were close to that level where the dam was actually unable to produce electricity. So you can compare that with other years and make your decisions. But the problem we have in Africa is that in many countries there is no capacity to actually access, process this data and generate this information. So one of the main concerns that we have in the implementation of the Paris Agreement is to put a special attention to capacity building in Africa. African med services, African climate service providers need a strong program for capacity building to do these practical things that are possible today. And that is the last element I had to share with you today. Thank you.